we have two good legal rulings here, covered by Erin Reed at Erin in the Morning. You should all go check out Erin in the Morning. It's a great resource. So the first ruling comes from Judge Reyes? Yeah, I guess so. Reyes just ruled that trans people have served honorably in the military. Judges Trump's military ban, which states trans people are inherently dishonorable, as unconstitutional and motivated by animus. And there's a good little quote here, which Erin has highlighted. So the situation is that Trump's tried to ban all trans people from the military, and they came up with this insane, like, trans people are innately, biologically dishonorable, not capable of serving honorably, deceitful, like, you know, the most extreme comic book level villain transphobia as an excuse for banning tens of thousands of people from the US military for absolutely no reason, in order to harm the military for no benefit to anyone. Anyway, just a standard bit of authoritarianism. But anyway, so then some trans people, along with some legal groups, are suing the government because it's against the law. So they are the plaintiffs here, and the defendant is the US government. So here the judge has ruled the plaintiff's service records alone are Exhibit A for the proposition that trans persons can have the warrior ethos, physical and mental selflessness, honor, integrity, and discipline to ensure military excellence. The defendants agree. They agree that the plaintiffs are mentally and physically fit to serve and have served honorably and have satisfied the rigorous standards demanded of them. Plaintiffs acknowledge they have made America safer, so why discharge them and other decorated soldiers? Crickets from the defendants on this key question. That's a pretty damning ruling, and I think, like, that's the reality of it, though, isn't it? I mean, there isn't any rational reason to ban trans people from the military, or from anything. But I mean, they're not going to be able to come up with a rational argument. They have had to say trans people are innately dishonorable, innately incapable of having the warrior ethos, and then you just like, yeah, but like, there's a bunch of trans people who've been in the army for 20 years and they're doing a good job. So that's just trivially, observably false. They don't have any other arguments. There's no other arguments. I mean, the reality is that I find trans people disgusting, so they should be banned from society. Like, that's the only transphobe argument anyway. Like, that's literally the full position, and they just don't really want to say it, because you can't say we're firing all these people from their jobs because we find them disgusting, because that won't stand up in court at all. But they've barely taken a step away from that to try and hide it. They've just said, oh, they're innately dishonorable. It's like, well, okay, that's obviously false. And then it just comes down to, do you have judges and people in power who are capable of rational thought, like this judge, or are they cowards who suck up to Donald Trump and the anti-trans movement? Or are they irrational true believers themselves who find trans people disgusting? And that's just how it's going to come down to. But anyway, this ruling on this case with this judge happened to go our way, which is good. I know, like, the ban came in, Trump signed his little order, but it is still, like, up in the air what is really going to happen. I know this often happens in the US, like, someone proposes a bill, it becomes news. The bill gets signed in, it becomes news again. The judges rule on it, it becomes news again. They appeal it, it becomes news again. It's like, wait, are they actually banned or not? Yeah, like, it keeps jumping, yes and no. It's complicated at best in a normal situation, but now where the Trump administration seems to be ignoring the rulings of judges, we will see. But it's a good ruling, and it's true, and it's good to see it written down, and this is the best we can hope for at the moment in this particular regard. But also we need to remember that this whole system could fail and you can end up with fascists in charge. And if that's the case, then you need to know that no one is like, there's no one judge with a rational mind who's at the top of the tree who's going to control everything and sort everything out. Like, these are all small, like, acts of protest. And we just got to hope they all add up enough. And they are not enough on their own, so you also need to have your own plan, do your own fighting back, organise your own communities, and just hope that these judges that do happen to rule the right way are just part of the force which is enough to stop what's happening. But so this is like, yeah, this is about the military, and it's obviously at like a federal level. This other ruling, which Erin has also covered, it's also on Erin's site, but it was by a different journalist. In Florida, interestingly, so the 11th Circuit, which is a higher court in the US, and I'm not an expert on this stuff, I'm sorry. What I do know about is what's going on behind this, but I think the 11th Circuit is one of the higher courts, but it's not the top one, obviously. But anyway, the 11th Circuit Court finds Florida school was not obligated to forcibly out trans students. Federal judges in the 11th Circuit found out that Leon County schools did not violate the parental rights of Jeffrey and January Littlejohn, the parents of a Florida student, when the school staff met with a 13-year-old about using preferred name and pronouns. The court said that the district was bound by reasonable expectations not to shock the conscience, a legal doctrine used to determine whether someone acted with unusual cruelty or malice, a bar that the district's actions did not clear. Defendants did not force the child to attend a student support plan meeting, did not invite the Littlejohns to that meeting, or to socially transition at school. The appendix said, in fact, the defendants did not force the Littlejohns' child to do anything at all. Another rational ruling from a judge. So in the context of the man, Graham's frozen again. In the context of the troop ban, there is very clearly no rational way of, like, it's not just there's no rational argument for banning trans people from the military. There's no even irrational argument other than claiming that trans people are like inherently demonic or something, which they've basically tried to do, because there's nothing else there. You can just look. Oh, look, trans people are serving in the military. Oh, they're meeting all of the requirements that you need to do that. They're good at their jobs. Their supervisors don't want to fire them. There's no argument there. But when it comes to outing trans kids, there is an argument you can sell at least to centrists who haven't ever thought about it. You can be like, oh, I'm just concerned. I just want to know what's going on in my school. I just want to know about my child. I just want to do the best for them, and I don't feel like I'm involved in stuff. And you'd be like, well, it does feel like the parents should be involved to some degree or whatever. But that's the position that you might take if you haven't thought about it. So if you're that person, I encourage you to think about it in a slightly different way, or to understand the perspective of the child, and to understand the perspective of human rights organizations and the law, which seems to not be agreeing with your position. If you have a child and your child is LGBT and they don't feel that they can safely, comfortably come out to you, or they don't want to come out to you, they want to come out to someone else, why is that? For what reason? Like, when I was growing up, I was very fortunate to have good parents, and I don't think there is anything in my life that I would have told a teacher before I told my mum. Like, nothing. There was no... I had some okay teachers, a couple of good teachers, some bad teachers. Even the good teachers that I trusted as people, who I liked as people, I would never have gone to first about anything over my mum. And that's because I really trusted my mum and I love my mum, and I was very fortunate to have good parents growing up. Not everyone does. If you're in a position where you feel like you need to tell the teacher before your parents, like, just think of the situation that leads to that. Like, maybe there's the wacky right-wing scenario where some group of teachers are going around for some reason trying to force kids to be LGBT, and they've picked on one random kid and then tried to brainwash. Like, that is straight up insane conspiracy theory wacko nonsense. Like, that has never happened ever once. Or if it's happened once in human history, it has not happened a second time, because it makes absolutely no sense at all. There's no evidence of it happening. And as the judge pointed out, in fact, the defendants did not force the child to do anything at all. Offering support is not forcing anyone to do anything. So, yeah, that's one possibility, which is obviously not a possibility because it's fucking nonsense. And the other option is the kid felt like they needed to come out to someone and get support, but their parents weren't the ones who they felt they could trust the most. They felt like they could tell their friends or the teachers or the support staff or whatever. And that's like indicative of your parenting. Like, maybe in theory you could be a good parent, but you could just have an incredible teacher who was just so trustworthy and nice that the kid just felt like they should tell them first or whatever. But I feel like in most cases, if your kid feels like they're coming out to everyone apart from you, then you're the problem. Like, you've done something wrong. That doesn't mean you should necessarily feel like a failure of a parent if your kid, like, your kid comes out to you and you're supportive of them and you love them, and then you find out that they told, like, all their friends first. You shouldn't be like, oh, I'm a failure of a parent. You should just be like, okay, well, kids have close relationships with their friends. That's normal and fine. If they didn't tell you for like 10 years or something, maybe you were giving off the wrong vibes. Maybe you can atone for that or something. But like, the situation in which the school finds out before the kid is already bad and damning of the parent, I think. But if the child specifically asks them not to tell the parents, in the only situation in which this ruling would actually be relevant, which is the school is like keeping it a secret from the parents, that is so damning of the parents. Like, that's a child safety issue then. The child should be able to have secrets. They should be able to be safe. Like, some parents are child abusers. Some parents hate LGBT kids. LGBT people are significantly more likely to become homeless. Young LGBT people, particularly, are significantly more likely to become homeless than straight cis people, because they get kicked out by their parents. They get attacked by their parents. They get abused. They get assaulted and like verbally attacked and everything, in a way that ruins their life. And like, kids have an understanding of this stuff. Sometimes they know that it is not safe to tell their parents, and that's the case in which they would come out to like a teacher or something before their parent. Like, so if you're someone who's like, oh, well, really, we should involve... No, we can't always involve the parents, because sometimes the parents are child abusers. And that's just the reality of the world. It is sometimes a safeguarding protection issue to not involve some people. And sometimes that would just be one of the parents. Sometimes it might be both of them. And I just think if you're opposed to that, protecting children from potentially abusive parents, then you can't pretend that this is about protecting kids at all. You are just saying, I do not care if this child is abused by their parents. I think it is more important that the parents know that their kid is LGBT than that the kid is safe. That's the decision you're making. And I'm just making the decision in the other way. Unfortunately, in this case, the judge has ruled in favour of the child's safety over your disgusting position.